A while ago, we had the distinct honor and privilege of interviewing the great New Orleans drummers Shannon Powell and Herlin Riley at the Galactic Studio. So myself and Paul Siegel conducted this interview. The voice you hear out of camera most of the time is Paul Siegel. And we got to guide them in a discussion of their upbringing in New Orleans and how they learned from some of the masters before them. So check out this very special interview and I hope you enjoy.
Talk about Danny Barco a little bit and the influence that he had on the two of you.
Well, I wouldn't actually be sitting here if it wasn't for him. I mean, he literally brought me out here. I was introduced to him by James Andrews Sr., 12, Big 12. And I was playing, there was a club on the corner of my house on Tremere and St. Philip. It was called the Three Brothers Lounge. Back then, Walter Wolfman Washington was playing there every Sunday. If he wasn't there, they had another group by the name of, a gentleman by the name of Mr. Millette and his Creoles. He was a Creole guy that played organ. He had a band with Mr. Ernest Watson and a couple other guys from the neighborhood. But I would go and sit in every Sunday on that corner. I used to stand on the corner with my drumsticks playing on the posts. He had a little post out there. And the owner, his name was Mr. Mert. He would always see me stand on that corner, and he knew my mother because my mother used to be in the bar on Sundays too. And he went in the bar and told my mother, she said, "Listen, that boy always stand on that corner with that. Do you know what he doing with them sticks?" My mother said, "Yeah, my baby can play." Just like that. So Mr. Mert come out the bar and called me. He said, "Come here, boy." He said, "You want to come in there and play a number?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "What you want to play?" I said, "Bourbon Street Parade." Well, back then, there was an old guy that was hanging there every Sunday. His name was Steamboat. And Steamboat would sing like Louis Armstrong. He had that voice and everything. But this guy was deeply rooted. I mean, he just was natural. But he grew up in those times, see, with Louis Armstrong. So he knew a lot of the music, you know what I'm saying? So I wanted to play behind him.
How old were you at this point?
Yeah, Steamboat. I was about 10. I was about 10 years old. No, about 11. So I got on the drum. And Corey Henry's father, who we call Bo Monkey would take his hat off his head and start passing it around the house. See? Yeah. So I'm up there playing. So after I finished playing, he gives the money to my mama. We got $80 to $100 in there. This is in the 70s, man. My grandma was working at Circle Food Store. She wasn't making that kind of money in a week's time. You understand what I'm saying? So I come in there with that. She take that and put it up, you know. So I started to make that out of habit. Every week I'm on the corner now with the sticks. And then I gotta go get my $70. I gotta go get my 80 or whatever, you know. But I'm saying all to say this, I'm playing with professional musicians in this place, you know, at an early age. And I'm grasping all of this feeling, you know what I'm saying? The people in there dancing, you know, and the people are dancing, some of the people are dancing, they're dancing to the music. I mean, it's like unbelievable, you know what I'm saying? There's a lot of creative shit going on right there, you know what I'm saying? So I'm like, man, look at it. I've never been in a bar before.
You in there illegal in the first place.
Illegal, I'm just tough, and I'm looking. So my mother's like, "Okay, he gotta go now. That's it. It's time for him to go," because some women are starting to get ratty, you know, they get pull their skirts up and stuff, you know. So I said to my mother, I said, "Well, look, Mom," I said, don't run me out now. I said, "Mr. Barco's coming to meet me today." She said, "Who is that?" I said, "That's the big time musician." Because 12 was there every Sunday, Big 12. He said, "Man, don't go nowhere." He said, "Mr. Barco coming to see you." I said, "Oh man, you should have had him come a little earlier, you know, wait because somebody, you know, see me play." So sure enough, as I was going out the door, Mr. Barco was pulling up. He introduced me to 12, and he told me, he said, "Well, this gentleman been telling me for a long time that I gotta come hear you." You know, so he went to the club on and said, "Look, put him on again." I was Mr. Barco, that's the way he talked. Yeah. Put the kid on again. Yeah. Mr. Barco said, all he did is number for the night. He said, "Man, look, I come all the way from so-and-so, I want to hear this kid play. Put him on again." So this time I go up, this time I play the second line. We don't play Bourbon Street, we play the second line. So, and Mr. Barco, he stand up and he just smiled. He got that smile on his face. So as soon as I came down, he started telling me about people that I had potential of sounding like, like Cozy Cole and Paul Barber. And he called these names. I had never heard these people's names in my life. You know what I'm saying? I said, yeah. He said, man, he said, you're going to be all right.
Yeah.
So, make a long story short, he actually started picking me up, taking me on his gigs. Mr. Barco had thousands of gigs, by the way. He had all types of gigs. He had gigs for a full set band. He had gigs for trio. He had gigs for just himself. He had all types of gigs. So he started breaking me and bringing me on the gigs with him. I was playing with people like Toots Washington, Jack Willis. Jack Willis, one of the greatest trumpet players ever come out of New Orleans. I was playing with Mr. James Carter, who was one of the old bass players that passed away.
Clem Turbulent.
Real professional musician.
Clarence Ford.
That's right. So one time, Mr. Jack Willis asked Mr. Barco, he said, man, why you keep hiring this kid, man? He said, all these grown men out there looking for work, when you keep hiring this kid. Mr. Barco looked at him and told him, and said, guess what? Somebody gave you a break, didn't they? Just like that. And he said no more than me and Mr. Jack Willis became the best friends. You know what I'm saying? Because he not only told him something, but he taught me something. This is how you get breaks in life, you know what I'm saying? And at the same time, like I was very young, but Mr. Barco was constantly educating me every day.
All the time.
About the music.
About your dress.
About my dressing.
About your attitude, how you play.
Everything. About my volume. He started dropping them bombs. He said, you dropping bombs. Because I didn't know no better. I kept asking myself, what you mean? You know, I'd be to the point where I was getting ready to cry.
Hey, Mr. Barco.
Stop dropping bombs.
Yeah.
Stop dropping bombs. I'm sitting up there, I'm like, I don't even know what to play now. I'm scared to hit the drum now. So after the break, I go to him, I said, Mr. Barco, what you mean about dropping bombs? He said, man, you're dropping that bass drum on everything but 4. He said, man, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. He said, man, you doing it, ping, pong, like you dropping bombs and you in a wall.
Yeah.
He said, you dropping things like you in a wall. He said, play straight, man. He said, when I give you a solo, you play whatever you want. He said, but when you're playing with us, play straight. And don't play loud. He said, if you playing them drums loud like that, how can you hear us? You can't hear yourself. He said, you got to play
mellow.
You know?
With the
He said,
play with
under
the band.
me. He said, I want you under me.
Yeah.
He said, when you take this solo, play what you want. Then he told me how to play full. It's another thing he jumped on me about. He said, you ain't playing full. He looked at me and said, you ain't playing full.
What is full? What is full?
What is full? He said, man, look, play that bass drum light. Bang, 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 bang. He said, you see how that is? He said, that's full. I can feel you. He said, I don't even need a bass player with that. He said, the way you play now, he said, you the bass player now, see?
Now you know.
And it made sense.
Let me tell you, now you know who wanted the music like that all the time? There was a guy around here named Thomas Jefferson.
Yes.
He played the way,
yes.
When you played with Thomas Jefferson, he was a trumpet player. And all he wanted you to play was 4 on the floor.
Slow, fast,
boom,
and medium.
Slow, fast, or medium, doesn't matter. 4 on the floor, boom, 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 a backbeat, boom, gat, in a ride pattern. Ting, 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 ting.
You play anything else, you get fired.
Change. Nothing else.
That's it.
A ballad. Change.
Yeah.
Change.
That's the way it was. But the
everything.
But it grew.
It grew.
Because the whole band had that concept.
But the thing about it is, when I first worked with that band, he had a drummer before him, and this guy, when he worked with Thomas Jefferson so long,
Stanton?
Randy.
Oh God.
Randy on drums.
That's his uncle.
You know.
What's his dad? The boy from Thibodeau.
Not Lord Lambert, huh?
No, the funk master played with
Tony Hall.
That's Tony Hall's uncle.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Randy?
yeah,
Really?
Yeah.
But after Randy started playing with Tom, he played. That's all Tom wanted him to play, and it was a steady gig all the time.
That's right.
He did that gig for about 10 years, huh, bro?
Yeah.
And after that, he started working, and that's that's all he could play. After that, he go on other people's jobs, and he got so conditioned to playing that way.
Right.
That's. But the thing about it is that was a way of playing that if you got into it and understood the concept of it, it really swung.
Yes.
It really swung.
And it helped you with your swing.
Yes.
Like when I went to other gigs, I was prepared from being on his gig.
But but inside of that, what we learned to do as New Orleans drummers too is manipulate the bass drum that way, and that's like the foundation of it. The bass drum and the foundation of our music in New Orleans is come from the bass drum, come from the bottom up, and that's one of the things that makes musicians or drummers, I say, from New Orleans different from other people, and how people play in other parts of the world. It doesn't matter if we're playing straight ahead swing or we're playing some a street beat. Our bass drum is always in there somewhere, and it's always kicking the music. In actuality, that's how jazz actually got started, because they took the march, the whole John Philip Sousa marches, and put that extra four on the second four, boom. Boom, 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 boom. Dee, 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 dee.
Yeah.
Dee, 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 dee. As opposed to dee, 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 dee. Dee, 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 dee. No.
Let me ask you, when did that start coming into play, you think?
That started coming into play, I think, just before the turn of the century, before the turn, like around 1890s. I think like in that maybe even earlier than that, because Jelly Roll Martin was around, around 18. Well, I guess Jelly Roll was born like 1890 something.
Yeah, maybe earlier than that. Maybe even earlier.
Maybe even earlier than that. But I think that was a very significant part of the development of the music.
That developed more in the street.
Yeah, I think that came before street. That wasn't, street is just, that's a modern term. That's a modern term for the tradition. Street beat. New Orleans music functions so much on, the music of New Orleans has played such a role in the cultural experience of being in New Orleans, during that time. When people play music for picnics. There was bands that played like on tailgate parties with with the people got on the back.
They voted and everything. They used music for everything.
Yeah, music was a part of everything. The social and pleasure clubs, everything was part. Music was a part. So when they had a parade, it's just the people played in the parade, and the music might have had a little syncopation in it, which is what the street beat kind of thing is.
And the drummer would just take a bass drum and a snare drum. They just kind of like did that,
Yeah, so.
But the whole set, we're gonna do this.
Yeah, but people actually was on the street in the parade, and it wasn't like considered a street beat. It's just a parade. It's just in a parade. And
I'm glad we're touching on that subject, because I wanted to share a little something about that. I'm glad we touching on that subject, because if you go back and look at the tradition of street music and the way it was in New Orleans back then, it was very organized.
That's right. That's right.
You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
Things have gotten
people
loose.
had a part.
Very loose.
You could tell. You could tell. When we were growing up as children, bro. When you hear the Eureka Brass Band or the Onward Brass Band,
it did something to you.
Or the Tuxedo Brass Bands. These guys, they had a reed section with clarinets, trumpet. Clarinet, saxophones, alto, and tenor, or maybe soprano, or there was a reed section.
Right.
Then there was. Well, the trombones in the front.
In the front all the time.
The trombone, first
Trumpets
and second
in the back.
trombone. The reeds in the middle, trumpets in the back, and drums behind that.
That's right. And tuba.
And tuba. Yes, trombone. But everybody had a part. The music was organized.
These guys had music on their own.
They had lyres and folios.
Music, like the sheet music.
Yeah.
Playing dirges.
Up until like I would say up until like the mid-70s, bro.
Right.
Because like around I guess late 70s, because they started kind of dying out around that time. You know, those guys were in their 70s. The people we're talking about were people who were born like around the turn of the century, around 1900 or so.
Right.
So by the time the 70s came in, they were 70.
Right.
You know, but we got a chance to actually touch those people and to play with them and interact with them.
Yeah.
You know, he's talking about, you know, Jack Willis and Isidore Washington. We used to call him Papa Yalla.
Yeah.
He played piano. He, you know, and Dave Fat Man Williams, you know, Professor Longhair. You know, Professor Longhair came to my grandmother's house and played the piano, and would actually play with his foot on the side of the floorboard. And there was a big gouge out of the piano where he would kick and keep time with his bunion on the floorboard. You know, so, you know, we got a chance. We were very, very lucky that we had a chance to interact with that. My grandfather was born in 1902. He played with Louis Armstrong in 1913 in the Waifs home. Right. He sat at the table and taught me how to play those kind of rhythms, those early New Orleans rhythms and stuff, you know. And he said thing about, when I played in church, don't play that James Brown stuff up in here. Don't play all that stuff. Play time.
That's right.
Son.
That's right.
Time is a beautiful thing.
That's right.
Time is a beautiful thing. If you just learn how to play time, you'll be all right. You'll be all right. Time is a beautiful thing. Don't play all that devilish foolishness in here. That's how he would talk to me. That's so, true. And I'm gonna tell you, growing up in church, you get to start playing some time in a groove with one of those like sanctified tunes, and the spirit come into place. And I'm talking about that tune be going 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. The same thing, and the people will get so. I mean, I saw women actually literally shout. They would shout, and I couldn't understand the phenomena. Whereby they would actually, when they finished shouting, and they would actually black out. Their bodies would be stiff as a board. I mean, like a piece of wood. Yeah. And they would carry them out to church.
Just like that, stiff. Like you're dead.
Carry them outside the church. Stiff as a board.
You would think like a person's heart would stop.
And then you get them outside, they get outside, and then you got to smell the salt. And they come back. To the nose. And then
when they come out of that, they're still praising God.
Yeah.
Oh, hallelujah. Hallelujah. Because they're feeling that spirit. The spirit is there.
I haven't seen that. I haven't really seen that as an adult.
It's real.
I haven't seen that.
It's real.
When I was a child, I saw that. I literally saw people shouting and going into that. And the groove, I mean, and I just associate the groove with that. I really associate, you know, when I play time, when I play a groove, I associate it with that experience in my life. Because the groove was so thick and so concentrated and so dense that people just fell into it, and man, it just kind of grabbed you up into this whole thing, and you just couldn't, you know, you just can't. What? I can't take it anymore. I gotta shout.
Yeah.
And you know, and so I mean, but that was a whole religious experience. That's why I don't play with religion. I don't, you know, I'm very serious with that when it comes to that. You know, right. So I don't play with that. I really try not to, for my own personal thing. I don't really do like religious tunes. If I'm in a club or something, I don't do that because I figure I save that music. That's music I use for praise and worship. I'm not going to use that music for entertainment. I'm not going to use that for entertainment. People say that. I mean, I've heard people come with the argument that you know, a lot of people in New Orleans do that. My own personal thing, they say that, well, God is everywhere, and you know, you should be trying to touch people wherever you go. That may be so. That may be true, but when we're in that kind of setting, that the intent of that music is not for reaching out to save anybody. The intent of that music is to entertain. It's strictly entertainment, and I don't.
You can't save a soul in a bar. I mean, how you gonna save a guy he's drunk out of his head?
Yeah. You know,
he's listening to a gospel tune. You playing with a strong rhythm. He's setting line and shaking. That's not what gospel is for. You ain't supposed to shake like that off of gospel music.
That's for my feeling. I mean, you know, I can't. You know, so I try not to mix the two. You know, because that experience for me is so sacred and so real. I don't I don't. That's
It's
not.
deep.
That's not for entertainment for me.